Ancient Rome, a city built on power, ambition, and often brutal ends. For centuries, its emperors ruled with absolute authority. There lies a tapestry of glory and intrigue. But even the most powerful could not escape the clutches of betrayal. Our story begins at the twilight of Rome's golden age, with an emperor who embraced the arena over the Senate, and whose reign would culminate not in battle, but in the intimate, steamy confines of his private bath, at the hands of an unlikely assassin, his wrestling partner. This is the tragic tale of Emperor Commodus and his deadly final embrace. For nearly a century, the Roman Empire flourished under a succession of 5 good emperors, a period of unprecedented peace known as the Pax Romana. This golden era culminated with Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor whose wisdom and stoicism guided Rome. Yet, even a ruler of his caliber could not control destiny's hand. His son, Commodus, ascended to the throne in 180 AD, marking a stark departure. From the outset, Commodus proved a different kind of emperor, one more interested in personal gratification than the burdens of the empire, foreshadowing a dark turn for Rome. Unlike his disciplined father, Commodus had a restless, impulsive spirit. Raised with immense privilege, he lacked the rigorous training for leadership that characterized previous emperors. He quickly abandoned Marcus Aurelius's policies, making peace with Germanic tribes and retreating from imperial duties. Instead, he indulged in lavish banquets, gladiatorial games, and a life of excessive pleasure. The Senate, once revered, found itself increasingly sidelined as Commodus's capricious decisions and growing paranoia began to unravel the delicate balance of power, sowing seeds of discontent and fear throughout the capital. Commodus's true passion lay not in governance, but in the brutal spectacle of the gladiatorial arena. He saw himself not as an emperor, but as a warrior, a hero in the mold of Hercules. He shocked Rome by actively participating in gladiatorial contests, dressing as a gladiator and fighting against professional fighters, often with blunted weapons or against animals, ensuring his own victory. This public spectacle, while initially tolerated, soon became a profound source of shame and scandal for the Roman elite. An emperor, heir to the Caesars, degrading himself in the dirt of the amphitheater was an unthinkable affront to imperial dignity. His obsession escalated into full-blown megalomania. Commodus began to equate himself with Hercules, the mythical hero, demanding statues of himself clad in lion skin and wielding a club. He went so far as to rename Rome Colonia Commodiana in the months of the year after his various adopted names. He saw himself as a living god, above mortal law and tradition. This increasingly erratic behavior, coupled with arbitrary executions and a growing circle of sycophants, signaled a terrifying descent into tyranny. Rome watched, horrified, as its emperor shed all pretense of sanity, threatening the very foundations of the empire. As Commodus's reign became more unpredictable and dangerous, fear rippled through his inner circle. His long-term mistress, Marcia, his chamberlain, Eclectus, and the Praetorian prefect, Quintus Aemilius Laetus, all realized their lives and the stability of the empire hung by a thread. They were not just advisors. They were entangled in his excesses and now saw themselves as potential victims of his paranoia. The lavish court had become a gilded cage, and whispers of revolt began to materialize. The emperor's volatile nature meant that their loyalty was meaningless. Their survival depended on preemptive action. The final straw came with Commodus's audacious plan for New Year's Day, 193 AD. Instead of presiding over the traditional consular ceremonies, the emperor announced he would appear in the Colosseum dressed as a gladiator to usher in the new year. This wasn't merely a degradation of his office. It was a deliberate provocation. He intended to sleep in the gladiators' quarters the night before. For Marcia, Eclectus, and Laetus, this was the ultimate public humiliation for Rome and proof that Commodus had irrevocably lost his mind. The empire could not endure such an affront. and neither could they. With time running out and their own lives at stake, the conspirators decided that Commodus had to die. Their initial plan was swift and discreet: poison. On the evening of December 31st, 192 AD, Marcia, knowing Commodus's fondness for a certain type of wine, secretly administered a powerful, fast-acting poison into his drink. She watched as he consumed it, a mix of grim determination and agonizing dread in her heart. The anticipation of his imminent collapse filled the tense air of the palace, a quiet act of treason unfolding in the very heart of imperial power. But fate, or perhaps Commodus's notoriously strong constitution, intervened. Shortly after drinking the poisoned wine, Commodus felt unwell, but rather than succumbing, he began to vomit violently. The poison, potent as it was, had failed to kill him. Panic seized the conspirators. Their window of opportunity was closing, and a failed assassination attempt meant certain, agonizing death for all involved. They knew Commodus's unpredictable rage. If he discovered their plot, their end would be swift and brutal. A more immediate, more certain method was desperately needed before he could recover and exact his terrible revenge. In their desperation, the conspirators turned to Narcissus, Commodus's personal wrestling partner. A man of immense physical strength, Narcissus regularly trained with the emperor, often engaging in mock combat. He was a familiar, trusted presence, making him the perfect, horrifying instrument. The command was clear: go to the emperor's private bath, where Commodus often retired after his exertions, and finish the job. The setting was ironic. The baths, a place of relaxation and rejuvenation, were about to become the site of a brutal, intimate murder. Narcissus, faced with an impossible choice, agreed. On that fateful New Year's Eve, Commodus retired to his bath, still recovering from the poison. It was here, in the secluded, steamy warmth, a place of vulnerability, that Narcissus found him. The wrestler, undoubtedly conflicted, confronted the emperor he knew intimately. The details of the struggle are lost to history, but the outcome is clear. Narcissus, using his formidable strength, overpowered Commodus and strangled him. The emperor who had once ruled the vast Roman Empire, who styled himself as a living god, met his end not in glorious battle, but in a quiet, ignominious struggle, drowned in the very indulgence he so cherished. The news of Commodus's death was initially suppressed, then spun as a sudden illness. But the truth, a tale of imperial madness and desperate betrayal, would eventually emerge. His reign marked a turning point, signaling the end of an era of stability and ushering in a turbulent period of civil war and crisis, known as the Year of the Five Emperors. Commodus, the Gladiator emperor, whose life ended in the intimate embrace of his wrestling partner in a steamy Roman bath, remains a stark reminder that even absolute power is fragile, and the fall from grace can be as swift and brutal as the blow of a gladiator's sword. His death closed the book on the Antonine Dynasty and opened a bloody new chapter for the Roman Empire.